Um, that's how you get that womp 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 kind of sound.
Hello, and welcome to episode 30 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I say 30 like it's a milestone because it kind of is. 30 episodes strong, not always super fast with Rhythm Encounter, but we're getting there, and I am proud to be doing episode 30 with some of my favorite peeps from the site. We have our music guru, Marcos Gaspar.
Howdy there, Wild Armor on the boards. Good to see y'all.
And Pikachu, I choose you, Peter Triezenberg.
Apparently I'm a Pokemon now. Peter Triezenberg. I have Fury on the boards.
I couldn't help it. We have 2 Pokemon picks on this episode, so I was like, God. And it works so well, too, with your name, I feel.
It does. I can see that.
You could be the next starter Pokemon. Maybe. Anyway, the theme for this episode is villain and evil empire themes, which I've been kind of excited to do ever since we did our character themes episode way back when. I really like talking about character themes. I feel like they are a very good example of how music can tell you something about a game you're playing or a movie you're watching without having necessarily to watch it, to play it. There's information provided in the music itself that can represent the character, can tell you things about them, maybe even things you don't quite expect to know about them. And especially with villain themes, we all expect to hear sort of the super dramatic, creepy, scary, crazy sounding bad guy themes, but maybe not all bad guy themes are like that, as we will see on this episode. So let's start our first block off. Marcos, you have our first pick.
That's absolutely right. And for my choice, we're going to be listening to Mullen's theme from the game Grandia.
Ooh. And then Peter, you're next.
So my first track is Battle versus Team Magma or Team Aqua Leader from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
That is quite a mouthful. I'm proud of you.
It's a long title. They're getting progressively more and more complicated.
Right? Well, mine's not as complicated, I guess. Anyway, my pick is And My Name's Booster from Super Mario RPG.
Booster.
Oh,
Booster. Yeah.
nice choice.
Or depending on, I guess, the localization of the soundtrack, I think it was Buki in Japanese.
Buki.
So, like my copy, it's And My Name's Buki, even though he's Booster in the American version. So your mileage may vary. So let's take a listen to Mullen's theme from Grandia, Battle versus Team Magma, Team Aqua Leader from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and My Name's Booster from Super Mario RPG.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, you enjoyed that listening, huh? You want to know why? Because it's some good listening. Now, my theme that I chose over here, Mullen's theme from Grandia, absolutely wonderful stuff. But I'm not going to say anything just yet. I'm going to leave the first honors to both Peter and Caitlin over here. How about you guys tell us what you thought about it?
I think it's interesting. It does not sound like a villain theme to me.
Yeah, that's what my thoughts exactly. It sounds nice and almost regal a little bit with how it kind of picks up with when the brass kind of comes into it.
No, I'm curious then, Marcos, because I haven't played the Grandia at all, so I have absolutely no familiarity with this music. So how does this kind of fit in with the tone, the tone of the rest of the music and this character? Like, what's going on? What do I make of this?
Yeah, who is Mullen?
Well, Mullen is the son of, what was his name? I believe Bal, or the leader of a force, or I don't want to call him an empire, but I guess we'll call him the quote-unquote empire of this game, the Carlisle force. And if you listen to the music, you're gonna find that this doesn't sound very devious or very evil, and that's because he's the kind of guy that he's working for like what he believes is the betterment of mankind, or whatever his father says. So he's doing it with like a pure heart, maybe a little selfishness too, and the music actually reflects that really well. You hear it's like very calm and collected, and eventually gets grander as it goes by. And I mean, you're right, it does sound regal, because like the manner in which he goes about doing things is very regal. I would consider him royalty. And like the music itself is absolutely beautiful. But did you guys have any thoughts on the music itself, or more of maybe I have a question about the character?
Well, I thought it was just I wasn't expecting to hear a full orchestra for, especially for, for Grandia, because not having played Grandia, but having played Grandia 2, that game is a lot more in the way of, fun, catchy, it synths and such and whatnot. It's obvious, it's artificial music for a lot of it. And I don't know, I was like, this is the game before Grandia 2, but it's got live instruments. What sorcery is this? So that was really neat.
That is really impressive, especially for a game that originated on the Saturn, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
yep,
that's some seriously high production value.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good thing about this as well, and if you never played Grandia, you're probably not going to be aware of what's happening in the music or some of the tracks he has on the soundtrack. That he uses some of these tracks and breaks them up into pieces or segments and plays them at certain parts of the game. Like the full Melon track you heard right now, for the good chunk of it, you hear is a theme for Mullen. But once it hits 236, around that time mark, that's used when you actually battle against him. And that's where it gets a little bit more grand in the music, a little bit more exhilarating. And I think that's a really nice way of making use of the music, separating it without making it sound too, disconnected. It's difficult unless you actually play the game to understand what I'm talking about. But I thought that was just really cool, and the music's beautiful. And I thought it's funny that this guy is associated with like these evil. I don't want to say evil people, just I guess misguided people, and this terrible, terrible daddy.
You're saying he has daddy issues then?
Yeah, that guy's a bad leader. But you want to talk about some cool leaders, though? Let's talk about Peter's track over here. We got Battle versus Team Magma and Team Aqua's leader here. Peter, talk about that.
Well, the Battle versus Team Magma or Team Aqua. Which team of genocidal maniacs would you rather hang out with?
I think Team Aqua looks cooler, at least from the artwork anyway.
Team Aqua being very pirate themed helps a great deal in this regard. So I really wanted to pick a Pokemon track for this because every Pokemon game, they're able to get each of the villainous teams in the Pokemon games kind of have their own After Team Rocket, they kind of started getting their own motifs and themes and goals. And Team Magma and Team Aqua, they're interesting because depending on which version of the game you're playing, you have one or the other as a villain. In Ruby, it's Magma. They want to increase the amount of land mass in the world. Or Team Aqua, they want to flood the planet, essentially. They're crazy environmentalists.
It just sounds so bad. Like you want to kill all of humanity for what reason?
Yeah, they're not exactly the most well thought out plans as far as Pokemon villains go, and eventually I think by the time we got to Gen 6, they were pretty just straight up like, yeah, we want to commit genocide for reasons, but what I like about this rendition of the track in particular is that in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are the 3DS remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. And to reflect the fact that they're remakes of Game Boy Advance games, they kind of gave Team Magma and Team Aqua a little bit more personality, especially the leaders themselves. Maxie's the leader of Team Magma. He's kind of a super analytical dude. They made him to reflect that for his personality, whereas Archie, the leader of Team Aqua, is a lot more boisterous. They both have the same battle theme, but I think in how their personalities have been fleshed out, the music's also kind of received a boost. How you have that drum beat going into it, and then it kind of like kicks off with a big guitar riff before the main battle starts, and it's super catchy, but also kind of intimidating. Yeah, that's what I really like about it. I was wondering what you guys thought.
I really like the piano at the beginning, how it leads in, and then it does this really, at least I think it's still the piano. It's doing this interesting thing in the background. It's a little hard to describe, almost like it's rolling up and down notes repeatedly. It almost kind of gives it a bit of a sci-fi feel to it a little bit. And then there's the jazz or the sort of big band kind of feel on top with the trumpet synths that is kind of fun.
Yeah, for me, like what actually made me really interested in this track, because I've never played like Ruby or Sapphire, the original or the remix, but that percussion that's being played, like that drum stuff, are those taiko drums?
I have no idea, man. For as far as instrumentation goes, I'm not.
Well, I only ask because if that is like higher pitched taiko drums, then that would match Pokemon like Ruby, Sapphire like amazingly, because lest I like was misformed, wasn't like Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire supposed to be modeled after the area of like Japan?
Yeah, I believe so. I think I would have to look this up, but the region of Hoenn in Ruby and Sapphire is really aquatic, so it's kind of meant to be like even before we got the Hawaii region with Alola, it's actually supposed to be like a series of islands almost. 7.8 out of 10, too much water. but so yeah, I believe it's based. I don't remember exactly what though.
Well, I mean, if it is true that it's supposed to be modeled after Japan, I mean, that's really cool that they put taiko drums in there, because that's what it sounds like to me. And being a Japanese instrument, I think it's a Japanese instrument. I think that's really great that they just jam that into there and putting that rockin' music in there, and also getting that little bit of like I don't want to say like a maybe Middle Eastern sound. It's like you know what I'm talking about, that theme that pops up. That just sounds a little Middle Eastern to me. Or like that's the kind of vibe I get.
It's interesting, and the Gen 3 and the remakes by extension have a pretty consistent soundscape for the most part. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of synthesized trumpet going on in most of the soundtrack. There's not as much of that going on here, but you still kind of get that like kind of super dramatic. That's sound that suits the battles going on.
That's cool.
But enough about genocide via land or sea. We gotta talk about a Mario character with fabulous facial hair.
Right. He does have a face full of hair, literally. Got
Tell
the
us
best
about
beard. Like, I think Mario might actually be a little bit jealous of his facial hair. You know, it's like all I can do is this fluffy mustache, but look at that gorgeous beard. Now, so Booster is an interesting character in Super Mario RPG. He's not the big bad of the game, but he's an opponent for a chunk of it, and he's just really a kooky character. Like, he has this tower full of he calls them snippets.
Yep.
Wearing robes and whatnot that he likes to play with, and he likes to eat a lot. He down the road, you basically have to trick him into eating a giant evil wedding cake in order to beat the boss that is a giant evil wedding cake. And he's a lot of fun, and then he's wacky and wild and kind of out there, and it's a nice character to have to play off against in any game, but especially in a Mario game, and a Mario game that is an RPG, which was an interesting sort of team up between Nintendo and Square back in the day. I remember that when the track starts off, when you get there in the game, when you get to his tower, first it's like this very fancy kind of hoity-toity elevator, almost like music that plays. It's very blah blah blah. And then you meet him, he shows up, and he's like, sorry, I have to go entertain this girl that fell out of the sky. Enjoy yourself. And he drives away on his little train, and then the music immediately changes, and you're like, oh, okay. I see what's going on here. And it's fun. It's the sort of, it's a little crass sounding, I think. It's supposed to sound a little kind of, crass sounding because it fits his character. It's got kind of a rock and roll feel to it. And it's a really fun piece with a good beat. The trumpet synth is obviously a little, it's showing its age at this point, but it's still a really fun kind of blat sound that it shoots out right at the beginning, which is like one of my favorite parts of the track. So I had a lot of different picks when I was trying to make my short list for this, and I jumped back and forth between using Booster because he's fun, but then I was like, I might want to pick something else, someone who's maybe a real bad guy, but ultimately I wanted to pick Booster because he's kind of a different villain. He's not like the super crazy, I want to destroy the world evil bad guy. He's just a weird guy who likes to have fun and eat cake and, try to marry weird girls who fall into his lap from the sky. So, why not? Why not showcase a different kind of bad guy theme?
It's fitting for a Mario game, to be sure.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys think about it?
I think you summed it up. You summed it up better than I could. But my thought listening to it was is that it's kind of super jazzy, which is a sound. That's a sound that the Mario games have returned to time and time again, and I thought it was interesting, kind of hearing it from a 16-bit RPG title. It's not a. I'm trying to formulate thoughts here, and it's not working. But the best I can give is if you listen to the later Mario RPG soundtracks, they tend to be a little more, almost I feel, traditional in terms of their musical output. And this track this track is just kind of goofy and zany, and like you said, it fits this character super well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And yeah, that synthetic trumpet at the beginning, I'm pretty sure what they were emulating was a muted trumpet. You just put it. That's how you get that kind of sound, or like even the Peanuts teachers go womp 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 womp. But yeah, when I heard that, I was like, ooh, that sounds farty or crude. I was like, this is perfect for him.
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, it does sound like a fart, doesn't it?
Farty, yeah.
Yeah, it's perfectly good explanation. And I like the I think another thing that I like about it, other than just being super lively and super let's say hip, but what's the word?
Hip with the youngins.
Yeah, he would be a hip guy. No, but just really cool. I like the clapping that's in it as well. You might not like hear it right off the bat, but there's like clapping in the background every now and then. It'll go like offbeat, and then you'll hear, and then you'll get to one part where it's like clap, clap, clap. But I really wish they put a little bit more clapping into it, because I think this would have been like a even more livelier piece. I'm a little ashamed that it's not ashamed, rather disappointed that it's not thematically longer, or it's not very developed. But seeing that's a Super Nintendo track, I shouldn't scrutinize it with that like limitation, because it's still a great track and I really like it.
Well, that's what we do here. We try to pick tracks that people like. So
Success
so far.
Mission accomplished.
Block 1 of 3. Let's see what kind of mischief we can get into with our next block, in which, Peter, you have our first pick, and it's a double pick.
It is a double pick, and this was kind of an interesting behind the scenes story. The two tracks are Caius's theme and Promise to the Future, both from Final Fantasy 13-2, because I really wanted to do Promise to the Future. I've honestly wanted to find an excuse to play this track on a podcast for a while now, and Caitlin rightfully pointed out that it's not really a villain theme; it's a cutscene song. But it does have my favorite little version of Caius's theme playing in there. So we compromised, and by compromise I mean we're doing both.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I love Caius's theme, and I love Caius. We both want to talk about Caius, and this way we get more Caius and who doesn't?
Sweet Liam O'Brien.
Right? No, I am literally going to talk about that after the break. Or when we come back from listening, you're going to hear me talking about the sultry tones of Liam O'Brien. So, without further ado, then my pick for Block 2 is Hunt or Be Hunted from Witcher 3. This is sort of the unofficial battle theme of the Wild Hunt, which are the primary antagonists throughout the game. And then, Marcos, you have the third pick.
Yep, and I chose Ghetsis battle theme for Pokemon Black and White 2.
All right, so we'll take a listen to Caius's theme and Promise to the Future from Final Fantasy 13-2, Hunt or Be Hunted from Witcher 3, and Ghetsis battle theme from Pokemon Black and White 2.
Caius deserved a better game. This is
Hashtag.
hashtag Caius matters. I don't know, but but seriously though, like all kidding aside, Caius is one of my favorite Final Fantasy villains, and he's relegated to the 13 spinoffs, and that's kind of a shame because he has a cool set of powers. He can transform into Bahamut. That alone kind of makes him an awesome villain. He has a great voice actor. Liam O'Brien is putting in work as this guy. And his backstory, his character is really interesting and kind of tragic. He's essentially, for those of you who don't know, and for Caius's thing is that he's sworn to protect this girl who he's in love with, and she is cursed to die and be reborn endlessly. And so when Caius's mission, his thing is that he's trying to destroy time, essentially. And the reason he's trying to do it is so this girl doesn't have to suffer anymore, and he doesn't have to suffer for watching her die over and over again. There's a point in the game where he even kind of like he's holding her in his arms and is just kind of like, how much longer must I endure this? And that kind of, and I think that the nature of his story in both his own theme music and in Promise to the Future, which is a lead into the final battle where they try to reason with him by saying like, she wouldn't want you to do this. I think that the richness of his character is reflected in how poignant his music sounds.
Yeah, that is pretty much almost everything I was going to say. I feel like he's one of the... Oh, no, well, hey, that happens often enough in reverse, so it's all fair game. I feel like he's one of the most sympathetic bad guys we've ever had in a Final Fantasy game, because even though it sounds batshit crazy what he's trying to do, I'm going to destroy time just so that this girl doesn't have to be reborn over and over, or die and be reborn over and over again, but it's a lot more kind of understandable in a way than just like, hey, crazy guy found out his mother was an alien and wants to destroy the world, or this crazy lady, she wants to compress time and destroy the world, or this weird monster thing comes around all the time, wants to destroy the world. All of
totally
those.
Wasn't a hasty rewrite.
No, right? I mean, you can feel it, and again, props to Liam O'Brien for not only giving us that, the great deep sounding voice that fits his role as a bad guy, but is also full of a lot of soul and emotion, and you can hear how much pain he's had to endure by watching this girl die over and over again, and how, especially in that final cutscene that Promise of the Future plays during, how utterly tired he is of having to do that over and over again.
He's basically begging for death.
Yeah. So he was one of the first people I thought of when we started planning this episode. It's like, Caius, we gotta, even if I don't pick him, someone's gotta pick Caius. We gotta talk about Caius because he's one of those really, really good, I think, bad, final villain types. And the song, his theme is, you expect to hear a chorus at some point for either the villain's theme or a final battle theme. It's kind of what we expect to hear, but it's such a beautiful track all around that has this, strong, clear melody, which is good because it gets used in a bunch of different places, like Promise to the Future. And there are parts of it that are almost kind of sad and sweet, not like booming bad guy theme, but more sort of that fits his nature as sort of a flawed but sympathetic villain. So it's just a really good villain, really good piece of music. And Promise of the Future is on its own, I don't know, it's something I listen to by itself, but when you watch it in the game and you have the context of that sort of final fight between him and Noel, and them, Caius and Noel throwing out their views of the situation with regards to Yule and how they're fundamentally opposed to whether or not they should allow time to keep on progressing as it has been. It's a really good emotional piece of music. So,
I mean, when you start to get into the whole like 13 mythos and all that stuff, then that cutscene becomes a little flimsy. But I like how it's structured. I like how it's rooted in the characters and their actual like emotions and feelings, which is it's rare that the 13 series ever got a legitimate emotional high going, and that was one of those few moments. And I also like the way the song is structured. I like how it kind of has a beginning, middle, and end. That's with since it's cutscene music, I think is a nice benefit to that.
Yeah. And I like the rendition of Yule's theme at the start of Promise to the Future. It's kind of a little trippy. It's kind of a warped version of her theme, but it's perfectly well fitting for what's going on in the scene.
It's good to underscore too, like this is what they're fighting for.
Yeah. Marcos, what did you think?
Do you have any left?
Well,
I'm sorry, Marcos.
No, not at all. I mean, I'd rather hear your thoughts on this because I'm not familiar with the series. And my only question is, as for Caius, is he not so much immortal, but does he how long has he been alive for?
I think millennia. I'm pretty sure for a really long time.
Okay, because for some reason I get that in the game Lost Odyssey where those characters are immortal. Have you played Lost Odyssey?
I really want to. I've never owned a 360.
Both of you can play it because when you get to those little short stories that play at certain points, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. It's just something just witnessing or living through something over and over again. Can be maddening, both just emotionally and also mentally destructive. So there probably was some point where he just Caius probably just lost it, and decided, well, I gotta do something about this. And when I initially heard Caius' theme, the first thing I saw it was, this does not sound like an evil villain. It sounds like this is a villain that's trying to change something that's torturing them. I got this very dramatic and tragic feeling for him, especially around 135, where you get that beautiful brass and string theme right in center, where it's ba da da da, and it just plays beautifully. I was like, wow, this does not sound like an evil villain. It sounds like he's plagued with a curse of some sort. And I'm glad you explained that, because that's literally what I was figuring, that someone was reliving just some type of torture of some sort.
Yeah, you definitely get to see a lot of that throughout the game. So yeah, that's great, Marcos. Thank you. One last thing on Caius I wanted to ask though. Have you played Landing Returns, Caitlin?
No. I really don't. I don't want to play that game, to be honest.
I don't. Well, I mean, okay, that's a whole other can of worms. I enjoyed the game, but the way they resolved this plot is the most half-assed thing in the world. It's so. I say Caius is a great villain in 13-2. Can't say so much for the third game. But nothing really made it out of that game story-wise intact. So, alas. We shouldn't hunt for things that do not exist, but
lest we become the hunted ourselves.
I was going somewhere with that, but that works as well.
I think so, yeah. Okay, so hunt or be hunted from Witcher 3. First, as an aside, this is going to be a really hard track to find. It's not on, to my knowledge, either the original soundtrack or later on they did an expanded version. I believe it's only available as one of 4 tracks that you would get digitally if you pre-ordered the game through, I think it was GOG. So it's hard to find, and that really sucks because it's a great piece of music, along with another piece on those 4 tracks, Lays of the Wood, that is amazing. For anyone who has played through that chunk of the game, I can't imagine why they didn't include it for everyone. Anyway, I get frustrated when that happens, when you have good pieces of music that aren't available easily for everyone. But it's well worth the effort to try and track down those tracks and hunt or be hunted in particular. This is a really energetic, fun for me. Cool, epic sounding battle theme. It's not technically identified as like the battle theme of the Wild Hunt, who are the very big bad enemies in Witcher 3, but it pretty much, with like one exception, plays during most of your major conflicts with them. If you're fighting the Wild Hunt or dealing with them, or if they show up, you might hear this piece of music. And so for me, it kind of became more so than other themes that are identified as the themes of the Wild Hunt or the theme of the leader of the Wild Hunt. This track is kind of the track that I think of when I think of the Wild Hunt. And it's such I love everything about this track. The opening melody with it's a fiddle or it's some sort of string-like instrument that's just going back and forth is really cool. It's interesting to me that throughout most of this song, the melody itself is just kind of repeating itself. It's the bass that's shifting to create the different feel of the song and kind of going in different places, which is kind of neat. We have this really prominent percussion and drums that are just kind of going crazy throughout the entire thing. It gives it a lot of its energy and movement. And then the vocals at the end. I mentioned this when we featured a piece from Witcher 3 before, I think during our trilogy of battle themed episodes, and I talked about the vocals there and how they're really cool and they're different sounding. These are not like Latin chorus vocals. These are sort of more ethnic folk kind of feel to it. They don't sound like anything you might have heard unless you're listening to like European folk music and whatnot. But it's a really cool kind of way to ground that music and make it feel authentic for the game and the world. So it's just I love this track. This is probably my favorite battle track in the entire game. And for an enemy force like the Wild Hunt, which are, the entire game you're basically being told over and over again, the Wild Hunt you can't beat them. They're incredibly strong and have super powerful magic, and there's no way you can beat them, but you're going to have to go up against them anyway. So for a formidable force like that to have a kick-ass battle theme is aces in my book.
The Wild Hunt are the dudes in like the skull armor, right? Like I've seen trailers and stuff.
Yeah, they are skull armor. They come with the frost, like basically in the game. If there's ever a natural frost that just grips the land, you better get the heck out of there because the Wild Hunt is coming.
Does that have anything to do? I'm pretty sure, isn't that like a piece of old folklore? Because I know The Witcher, that series kind of cribs a lot from like old fairy tales and stuff.
I'm not sure myself. I've never read the books. I've only played the games, so I'm only aware of their mythos within the game world. Okay. But
I'm just
I
curious.
wouldn't be surprised. The story behind Witcher is that the reason why there are magic and monsters in the world is because of what they call the conjunction of spheres, where the real world crossed paths for a time with a land of dark, evil magic, and that sort of spilled over into the world as we know it. And that's why there are things like vampires and werewolves and evil magic, and that's why we need witchers to go out and to deal with these supernatural beings. So it wouldn't surprise me if they use that as an opportunity to work some folklore into it. The game itself and the world kind of lend itself to that environment to begin with. So,
right. I was just curious, but in regards to the track itself, the beginning especially reminded me a lot of I don't remember his name, but the guy who composes Game of Thrones, and he's done a lot of other movie scores. It reminded me a lot of his style of music with that heavy string influence. And then the vocals kicked in, and I swear to God, like my hair stood on end. Like, I was like, oh, this is good. And yeah, it's a fantastic battle theme. Especially now that I know that it's a battle theme and it's associated with this kind of like primordial force, like, and the title, even the creature's called the Wild Hunt, the track's called Hunt or Be Hunted. It's that resonates really strongly and with me. And yeah, that's I haven't played The Witcher 3, in case it wasn't obvious by all my questions. I just time and Western RPGs and I don't get along, and all the random excuses I give myself. But this is it's some great. What I've heard of the soundtrack is fantastic, and this is a great piece.
Yeah, there's a lot of good music in this game, and in the DLC expansions, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I want to. I had to steel myself because I totally get, this game is massive. I started playing this day one in 2015, and I took several large breaks, but it took me until this past November to beat the main game. So
too many games, long games,
too many games, and this is just it's a massive game to play through, and then the DLC probably is going to add another 30 to 40 hours at least, and knowing me, closer to 60. So yeah, there's a lot. But if you're ever in the mood for that sort of, big experience, definitely check it out. Or if it's ever on sale, definitely check it out.
Oh.
Marcos, what think you?
I mean, both of you did a great job of nailing it on the head. And just to echo what Pierce said, when you hear that screaming in the background at 117, and then all of a sudden at 124, it's now in the foreground. That gave me a bit of chills. I like that little chorus right there. I was like, oh, that's great. Love it. This is a great track. I want to hear it, experience it, live it.
Well, I'm glad I got you to experience it then.
Thank you.
So talking about experiencing music, this is an interesting battle theme that you picked.
Yeah, it is.
Dennis the Menace.
I was thinking about starting up with saying Dennis, but yeah, when I had to decide what Pokemon theme I was going to choose from Black and White 2, I thought I was really leaning on Colress, and then I thought, no, Ghetsis has a better battle theme. And the reason why I chose this one is because, like the character himself in this game, it sounds more maddening. It's a little bit chaotic, and at this point, Ghetsis has clearly lost all sense of his mental ability, all that stuff. I mean, just look at the way he dresses. He looks like a hobo that just jumped out of the trash can.
Right?
Yeah, his clothes all black. It doesn't even look like a nice black, like a cool black. It looks like it's all torn up. Kind of like a Sigma after Mega Man X6. His clothes, his cape's all ripped up. He's breathing heavily. That's kind of the impression I got from him. I was like, really, Pokemon or Nintendo? You really want to go with that for a villain in this game? But for the music itself, I'm gonna let you two tell me a bit about it, because I got plenty to say about this track. Peter, how about you?
Oh, I haven't played Black or White 2. I've only played half of Black, actually. Gen 5 is something I really want to go back to. But I compared this track to his battle theme from Black and White 1. And in that one, when he was totally in control and he was the mysterious mastermind of Team Plasma and all this stuff. And then compared to this, and he's almost unhinged. This is the theme of someone who has lost everything, but he's still a super self-important figure, which is why the battle theme is just constantly chanting his name. And I think it's kind of amusing, just in terms of just listening to it. We were making the Dennis joke, but at the same time, I think it's actually really fitting almost for this character at this stage in the game. Because if you're playing Black and White 2, presumably after playing Black and White 1, you know who Ghetsis is. You understand why he's significant, and the song kind of hypes him up for you.
What I think is really interesting about this piece is it's so percussion heavy. It actually kind of reminds me of some of the battle music from Legend of Legaia, which was also very percussion heavy, kind of to do music more through percussion than an actual melody. And there's a melody in there, but it's kind of discordant and a little off-putting, which is, good for a villain's theme. It should probably make you feel a little bleh. So that was my big takeaway from that track, actually. Is percussion.
No, that's
percussion and chorus.
Yep.
That is the theme of this block.
Yep, that is actually very good observation there. The first gets this battle theme for the Pokemon Black and White one. The beginning starts off with, I want to say 50 seconds to a minute of just percussion or just timpani. It just plays that, and it gets more and more chaotic, and then eventually gets to the Gets's theme, I guess you would call it. While right over here, it just starts with the chorus going, screaming his name, and having that percussion, all that other good stuff happening at once. And this one I really liked a lot, and the reason why I chose it is in the background. Well, I can't really say background because it's overpowering the track. Is the heartbeat in the percussion goes happening the whole time, and especially around 102 where it fades out, and then it comes back at 107, even a little. I feel a little bit louder, so it's not gone yet. It's still there, and I just get a sense of madness from this track, and I thought this is a good evil theme. This is a bad guy's theme.
It also just not to change things up, but it contrasts him really well with Kolras, who's the new villain in Black and White too.
Yeah, absolutely. In his theme, or his battle theme, it's just, I guess, I want to say it's a lot more, what's the best way to put it? It's a lot more involved. There's a lot happening in it, because it makes more use of the stereo on your headset or your speakers, and there's just things going all over the place. It's very calculated, very sporadic, and I guess it gives your ears a little bit of listening, or a little bit more to listen for.
Mm-hmm.
It's always nice to have that kind of fullness, I guess you could say, in the orchestration, the instrumentation of a track, giving you more things to listen to, more things to discover. Because I know I didn't pick up on the fact that they were chanting his name at first. I heard synth chorus, but I wasn't listening super closely to it. Then the second time I listened, I was like, wait a second, that kind of sounds like, are they? Oh, they are. Okay.
Like I said, when I first heard it, I thought they were saying Dennis.
Dennis.
There's only so much you can do with the DS's sound hardware.
Yeah. I'm quite impressed that they got it to sound like, after a couple listens, it does sound, that's kind of, because a lot of times, chorus is just singing, you can't even hear what they're singing. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's no chorus there's chorus in the next block, but not in our first pick, which is mine. I picked, and I'm going to surprise everyone here with this, totally unexpected for me, of all people, to pick something from Final Fantasy XII. I picked Theme of the Empire. You knew it was coming, but I had to pick it, and I will explain why I had to pick it. I tried not to, but I had to, and I'll go into greater detail about that. And then Marcos, you had the next pick in the block.
Yep, I chose March from Tales of Legendia because we need more Tales of Legendia on Rhythm Encounter.
Yeah, we need more Goshina. And then Peter, you get the last pick.
I get the track with the weird Latin name. My final track is Le Eminenza Oscura 1. There is a 2. From the Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance soundtrack.
Let's listen then to Theme of the Empire from Final Fantasy XII, March from Tales of Legendia, and La Eminenza Oscura 1 from Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance. So I tried really hard not to pick this one. I kept telling myself, Caitlin, you pick a lot of stuff from Final Fantasy 12. Everyone knows you love 12. Pick something else. And I really wanted to listen to that little voice in my head, but the more I thought about this track and how it's used in the game, I was like, I have to talk about this because it's brilliant. It is really brilliant. I've mentioned before that Sakimoto is a thematic composer, and Final Fantasy XII soundtrack in particular is very thematic in nature. A lot of the music in the game is a variation of, either the game's theme or the theme of the Empire or the theme of the Resistance, and it gets reused and revisited throughout the game. But the theme of the Empire in particular, just this one track, is kind of a microcosm example of that. Which I think is amazing, even though it's not my favorite piece of music. It's not my favorite theme in the game, but it's just such a good use of music. So you've got essentially two variations on the theme here. The first part that plays in like the first minute and a half of the track, or the loop rather, is very brass heavy. It sounds kind of like a march. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Sakimoto was kind of channeling a little bit of the Imperial March from Star Wars here, which would make total sense because the game itself is kind of borrowing a lot from Star Wars. But this is more of like the actual villainous part of the theme. This is the music that sort of represents the real bad guys in Arcadia. That is Vayne and the Judge Magisters who were loyal to him, like Gabranth and Geese and Bergen. And it's very, like I said, very brass heavy. It sounds like what you might expect to hear for an evil empire. But then the rest of the loop, from about a minute and a half until it loops again, close to 4 minutes into the track, is softer. It has strings and woodwinds. There are chimes at different places. It almost sounds kind of playful and whimsical almost in a few places. This plays in a couple of cutscenes. It most prominently, for me anyway, plays when you finally travel to Arcades in the latter half of the game and you get to the upper class, the rich part of the city, and you're running around, exploring, doing quests and whatnot. In other words, when you finally get to the city that's supposed to be the heart of the mortal enemy, the big bad of the game, and you see the city and its people for the first time. And not only is this an interesting piece of music to have, a variation within its own theme, but it's also really interesting how it's used in the game too. Like this one theme gets broken up into different pieces and used in different sequences depending on what's going on. So, like for instance, the first part, the march part, is used when you first meet Gabranth in his full Judge Magister armor, and he's walking in very commanding, and you immediately know, thanks to this music, okay, this is a bad guy. But different pieces will be used in different sequences. For instance, when you're dealing with Larsa, or when you're seeing the judges interact with for instance, Marquis Omdor, you get different pieces of the track. And then, like I said, the softer part that plays in Arcades. And I think it's really neat because it to have that, to use that in different places like that, not just have it be the same part, the same theme all the time, to represent different aspects of Arcades. And it's also a nice sort of musical representation of the major conflict of the game, at least for Ash, who is in a lot of ways the main character, the one moving the plot around for a lot of the game. That conflict of, is the Empire really evil, and do I just destroy them to take my revenge for what they've done to my people, or do I try to see a different side to the Empire and believe that maybe we can actually have peace with these people that, for a long time we thought were just evil invaders. So for those reasons, I was like, I have to pick this track. I have to talk about this because it's just such an interesting use of music in a game that has a soundtrack full of interesting use of music. But that's just my thoughts. What did you guys think?
I think you hit the nail on the head with in terms of how it ties into the game's themes, especially when you're listening to the music and it starts off. For one thing, the track, while it is sinister at the beginning, it never loses this sense of regality throughout the entire piece, and it's a fairly lengthy piece for an Empire song. It never fails to capture the sense of weight and history, and you just get the sense that this is an ancient institution. This is a nation with deep roots, and how it kind of transitions from that more militaristic march to the kind of more stringy bit kind of reminds me a lot of Vane and Larsa and their relationship, and how they're both kind of represent the two faces of Arcades. How they're like,
yes,
you have the villainous Vane and Larsa who wants to make peace, and they're two sides of this. They're two sides of the same coin in that they're the same. It's the same nation. They are both part of this country. But they're also in their different aspects of it at the same time, and also kind of how with Bosch and Gabranth in a similar way. Duality is a big thing in FF12.
Yeah.
And I think this piece captures it really well, and like you said, those motifs come back time and time again. So this is almost like Final Fantasy 12 in a microcosm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very good description. I mean, I've only played Final Fantasy 12 probably for a couple of hours, so I really don't remember this theme very well. However, just listening to the track itself, it has like this very a little bit of like a sinister air about it. So I thought that was really cool, and it's good that you're telling me about this, because now I have at least some kind of context where to put those thoughts. And I always love when they part like a type of like march rhythm inside of like any type of Empire theme. It's like, yep, that's an Empire theme right there. I think at 43, where I forget what instruments. I believe it may have been let's see, not the brass. It was something else where you hear like dot or dot 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 or anything like that. And I think kind of reminds me of Star Wars, like that. Those Empire dudes.
There's a lot of FF12 that'll remind you of Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's basically Return of the Jedi.
So that's good that I got that bit of a backstory in there to give it a little bit of context. So no, it's a good pick. And I even kind of like secretly wish inside like this would have been the great like bonus track, like theme of the Empire, literally just Empire.
God, I wish we'd get more Evil East games. Total aside.
Yeah. Well, at least we have a, awesome remastered, redone version of the soundtrack to look forward to when the HD version comes out next year.
So excited.
Which, you guys know I'm going to be all over that. I would not be me if I wasn't all over that. But speaking of being all over stuff, let's talk about how amazing Goshina is and how he should really be all over Tales music from now on. I think we should just like Sakuraba should maybe consider passing the baton to Goshina, I think.
Yeah, and by that we were talking about the March track from Tales of Legenda, and yeah, I'm pretty positive that we should pass that baton over to Goshina. In fact, my only notes I have on this track just says Goshina on there.
I say, gotta go Sheena.
Gotta go Sheena. Oh my gosh. No, but like to explain the track itself, like anytime the bad guys show up, this like track plays very dramatic, it's very energetic, and I already told Caitlin and Peter, but I can't get over that the characters are like chibi-like, and you get this dramatic music because it just does not mix well, and it comes off a little comical, especially how they saunter in, and then you get this dramatic choral, just chorus in the back, and it's like, this is really funny, but man, this music's so good.
It's an interesting chorus. It sounds a really different from like most, bad guy, final boss choruses. It's combined with some of the instrumentation choices. It gives it kind of a bit of a Far East feel to me, I think.
When I first heard it, I thought of Naruto. That was,
Kind of like a Naruto track, actually.
so yeah, my thoughts are very I guess very short on this one. That it's just very amazing. Very, you get a good showcase of his ability in this, like in his first entry into the series. And we need more Goshina. Why isn't there more Goshina? I'm talking to you, Bandai Namco, whatever you call yourself. Why is there not more Goshina? Pay him.
And then Namco returned Marcos's emails.
No, I agree. Well, I have not played Tales of Berseria yet, but what I've heard from Tales of Hysteria was really fun and refreshing. So, and I want to play this game, but I keep, whenever you talk about Tales games, Legendia is the one that everyone's like, oh, the soundtrack is amazing, but the game is not amazing. And for a Tales game in particular, because, Tales games can be kind of, you either love it and you really love it, or you kind of either don't really like it, or you can't stand it, or it's Tales games can be kind of hit or miss, and Legendia sounded like it was much more of a miss in every avenue except for the soundtrack. So it's one of those games where I want to play it for the music, but I kind of don't want to play it for the game.
Yeah, fair enough. I thought at first when the track started, I thought it was another Witcher track. Weirdly enough,
right?
The chorus, and then that guitar riff kicks in, and it's like, okay, no, this is an anime. And then the rest of the song starts, and it's like, it's kind of interesting how it goes from those three different styles, but it does like in rapid succession, but it doesn't sound jumbled. That's a difficult balance to strike, and I think it kind of reminds me of something out of FF14 almost, and how varied that soundscape is. Like how you've got kind of the mix of the modern and the ancient. So yeah, good show, Marcos.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like, at least the theme's in your face, so you're not really lost in the darkness over here.
Speaking of the darkness, Peter, tell us about your track.
So there's Kingdom Hearts in this podcast, so Mike now officially hates it. Love you, Mike. But speaking as the Kingdom Hearts Defense Force, Dream Drop Distance is where the plot loses you. You may have been able to keep up with the story until now, but I challenge even the most diehard Kingdom Hearts fans, of which I count myself among, to explain what happened in this game. Fortunately, it did give us a really epic series of final bosses against villains, both old and new. They basically find an excuse to bring back every villain from the old Kingdom Hearts games who was already defeated, introduce a new character, and set up whatever the final conflict of Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be. Basically, it's the beginning of a second Keyblade War. And to accomplish this, you have a suite of 6 final boss themes, 4 of which have ridiculous Latin names. La Eminenza Oscura is part 1 of 2 in Riku's battle against Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, who was the villain in the first Kingdom Hearts and has since sort of become kind of a recurring character in the series, in that he's kind of Riku's he's kind of a symbol or representation of Riku's inner darkness, or his struggle with the dark powers he once wielded. And as a result, this 2-part boss fight happens. And what I really love about this track is I love the main theme of Kingdom Hearts gets reprised. It's a really good rendition of Destati. And it just, I don't know, it just, this whole thing is just so dramatic, and it builds so well upon characters that you've gotten to know and love over so many games, and it just kind of sets the stage for this is gonna be it. This is the beginning of the final showdown when Kingdom Hearts 3 eventually finally comes out, because that's a thing that's happening.
Right?
Yeah, I know. It's gonna happen one of these days. FF15 is out, right? Anything can happen.
Hey, yeah, Half-Life 3, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2 might be a Switch exclusive, apparently. I mean, I'm not... I don't know. I don't have anything to back that up. But But it's the Kingdom Hearts fanboy in me is it just adores this track and this whole sequence of tracks, and even still has an interest in seeing how this crazy convoluted mess of a plot gets resolved. So what did you guys think?
Well, I wasn't surprised that there was a heavy piano in the piece. Shimomura loves using piano in her battle themes. We're certainly hearing that in Final Fantasy 15 a lot too. But this is an interesting piece because there are chunks of it that feel kind of subdued and a little bit quiet, where the piano is sort of just doing this repetitive sort of pattern in the background, keeping the pace. It's the piano is sort of the one that's making the rhythm really felt there with how it's going back and forth. But I really like the swell going into like about a minute and a half into the song, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the reference to the Kingdom Hearts theme that you were talking about, Peter, right?
Yeah, that's when it kicks into high gear.
Yeah. That's a really good part because, like I said, some parts of the piece are kind of subdued, but then you have this sort of climax with that melody, and it really picks the drama up with bringing that melody into as it does. I mean, I've heard other Kingdom Hearts themes that reference the main theme, and every time that comes in, it's just like that sort of kicks it into high gear a little bit, having that reference in there and having it be used in a battle track. So it's good stuff. And I'm sure I'll speak for our previous MC, Stephen Meyering, Tales from the Board. So I'm sure that he would very much approve of you picking a Kingdom Hearts track for this.
So someone's got to pick up the slack in his absence. Marcus, what do you got for me?
I mean, I didn't know what the plot was until like you just mentioned it a moment ago. I was wondering, like, what is Dream Drop Distance, and why is this playing Anthem?
Doesn't it sound like a bubblegum theme, like the Kingdom Hearts, the bubblegum?
Each delicious Dream Drop Distance.
Kingdom Heart, the flamethrower.
Part of a nutritious, balanced breakfast.
I thought at first I was like, is this a candy? Like, when did I miss this?
It's an awkward. It's when they were trying to be clever and come up with a way to have 3Ds, so they could hit for the 3DS, and
yeah,
it wasn't Donald Duck dies, unfortunately.
He still doesn't heal you in this game.
No, he doesn't, because he's not even in the game.
Still failing you.
It's a solo quest.
Oh, that's good.
Duo quest, but.
So, any final thoughts on this track, people?
Nah.
No, we're good?
Now we good. Kingdom Hearts is
right.
good.
Well, sadly then, dear listener, you know what time it is. That's the end of our episode on Villain and Evil Empire themes. As always, please give us a rating, a review on iTunes, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Feel free to tweet at us on Twitter, to talk at us on the boards, send us fan mail at music@rpgfan.com. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, ideas, anything, be sure to shoot it our way. We love talking with our fans about music, and we love talking about music. So it's a win-win situation as far as we're concerned. So for myself and Marcos and Peter, thank you for listening. As always, we have a track to take us out, and I decided I was going to do the honors this time just because this is another track that I really wanted to pick, but I ended up deciding not to, just because like I said, I had to talk about Final Fantasy 12. But luckily, I can play it right now for you. This is taking us out will be Ramirez's theme from Skies of Arcadia.
Ooh.
What?
Yeah. This is another bad guy and another theme that immediately kind of came to mind when I was thinking about this topic. I don't know why, because it's been forever since I've played the entirety of Skies of Arcadia, but for some reason I keep remembering the the picture of him when he's doing like his super attack when you fight him and he drags his hand across his face and he's looking at the camera really, really evil like, and I just like that always stuck in my head as far as villains are concerned. So you're gonna listen to his very appropriately sounding bad guy music as we leave the episode. So enjoy.
The 13 games are like they're all good in their own right, I think, but yeah, they're worth playing. They're not 15.
I don't think
That's
anything
their
is
biggest
15.
problem.
They don't have a car. That's what was the problem.
They don't 0 out of 10 no car.
No car.
I don't like the car.